to keep track with everyone and to keep everybody on time, we are going to go ahead and get started. So it's 6:07. So you may have a bar that pops up because Jo and I are recording this session. So that way we can share it with individuals if they need to view this information later. And then everyone in our program can share it with each other. If there's others from your club that weren't able to attend this evening, they can still have access to this information. So you may have a bar that pops up that says this meeting is being recorded. By continuing to be in the webinar, you are consenting to being recorded. So you can just click continue. And we are going to go ahead and work through our slides with our information for this evening. So first we have the Gilt Show that's this weekend. That will be Saturday, July 18th, and it begins at 9 a.m. So these are some different stipulations that you'll see as far as what we are asking our community members to follow. Asking you to social distance between each other when at all possible. If you're grouping together as a family, try to social distance from the family that's next to you. Something that's different that we haven't typically had in the past, we've provided seating, whether it be benches or picnic tables, bleachers, etc. So we're not going to have any of that this time. So if you would like to have a seat or somewhere to sit, we ask that you do bring your own chairs. In order to do that, we're going to give priority viewing to the families whose children are in the ring at that time. So we do ask that everybody be considerate of one another and to make sure that you do step away from the ring when your child's not in there so that other family members can view their child. We ask that you wash your hands often with soap and water if it's not available, using hand sanitizers. And currently it said that face masks will be expected, but as most of you will have noticed, as of at some point this afternoon, we have been moved, Scioto County has been moved into a red level county, which now means that masks will be required in public places. So masks will be required for participants and individuals that are there during the Gilt Show. So we will have some different signage that's available that has, this information posted throughout the area where we'll have our Gilt Show this Saturday. Rabbit tattooing is also taking place on Saturday morning. So that's July 18th, and it'll be from 8 to 10 a.m. only. We're kind of going to mimic what we did for our chick pickup, and we're doing more of a drive-through process. We are going to have the I about said chick pickup. So we're going to have the rabbit tattooing in the south end of the large animal livestock complex. I believe there's another event that's happening at the fairgrounds Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. So they're going to be on the south end of the fairgrounds, which is why we're not going to utilize our rabbit and poultry barn. But we're going to have that at the south end of the barn. So what we're going to ask that our rabbit exhibitors do is to have this drive-through situation, and I think this is actually kind of going to work out better with it being a little warmer. That keeps our animals and our kids and our participants a little cooler, is to have everybody remain in your vehicle until you pull up to our station, and then one individual can bring those rabbits over to the table where they will be tattooed, and we'll collect your paperwork. And then you can load your rabbits back up to leave, and then we'll have the next vehicle pull up, and we'll sanitize and clean in between our individuals that are coming up. So again, with us being in a red county, face coverings will be required for our rabbit tattooing that day. So, respecting our volunteers and myself and everybody that's there helping, if you guys could do that to help keep everybody safe, we would greatly appreciate it. So just remain in your vehicles, pull up and all of that, and then you can load your bunnies back up and be on your way. Okay, so this is the piece that I know that everybody wants to get into. And when Jo and I have continued to say week after week, we've been having our weekly volunteer check-ins with everybody on Thursdays, and we've had some different committee meetings, and just speaking to anybody out in the community, and when we've talked on the phone or whatever, that this has constantly been a fluid situation. Things have been changing day to day, minute to minute, hour to hour. As soon as it seems like that we get a plan set or a situation in place that we're ready to roll with, something else comes up, or we receive new information, so we have to completely scrap and start over, or alter our plans that we've had. So when we first began this whole process, back in March, April, when we were meeting with our committees and our senior fair board, and we chose to move forward with a junior fair in order to provide that exhibition opportunity for our kids, we had originally scheduled or thought that we would use a one-day haul-in, haul-out show. Well, then things started to ease up a little bit, and the governor released some different restrictions, and the university gave us some different information, and it seemed like things eased up a little bit, so we thought we would move forward. And even after meeting with individuals from the health department, we were ready to move forward with a full week normal junior fair schedule with some different alterations, where animals and kids would be there all week. And that was the plan even up until Monday. Monday, our committees met. Our junior fair committee that consists of representatives from our horse committee, our livestock committee, our 4-H committee, and our senior fair board. All of us sit on this junior fair committee, and when we went into that meeting and we had our recommendations and everything laid out, our information that we had already submitted to the health department, everything completely changed within just the first 5 minutes that we were there, because we had received notification from a representative on the health department board that stated the full week show and kids and animals being there all week was just not going to work. It wasn't going to happen with our numbers continuing to climb, that we needed to rework it and come up with a different plan. So the 4-page document that Jo and I had ready, and our schedule that we had typed up ready to go, was completely altered within the first 5 minutes of that meeting. So, remembering that these committee members and our volunteers have been working so much and so hard every night, every day, countless meetings and hours that they've put into all of this, and things are changing on the fly. So I hope that everybody can continue to bear with us as we navigate these waters together, because it can be frustrating at times, and I understand that. I can completely understand everybody's frustration. So our new plan that we came up with was back to that 1-day schedule. And so that's what we've shared with our health department at this point in time. But what we're doing today is being honest and being transparent with everybody and telling you where we are at this point, but it's still not set in stone, and it's still not solidified at this point, because even though this is the new recommendation that we've typed up and that we've sent to them, it still hasn't been approved. The health department is still going to have to sit down and look at this and decide what they want to do, and if this is something that we can do safely. And we're putting our 4-H families and our communities at the forefront of this, and their safety is our highest priority. So I want our families to prepare for a worst case scenario, which could be, even though they may approve our 1-day show, an hour later or a week later or a couple of days later, depending on how these numbers continue to fluctuate, they could come back and tell us no. So there's a potential that regardless of what we get approved, they could still come back and tell us no, that this is not going to work. So worst case scenarios is that we would have to cancel our junior fair altogether. And I want our families to be prepared for that. But one of my biggest concerns from the beginning is that I've always been concerned with, what are these kids going to do with their animals? And so we have solidified markets for our animals. We have local processing facilities that are holding spots for us. And we've been working closely with our stockyards that are agreeing to come and get our animals. So regardless of if we fall into that worst case scenario, I'm still going to have a place for your animals to go. So that's one of the plus sides of this. So we're going to get more into these details, but I guess this is my heartfelt message and plea that, I'm asking everybody to, stay in this boat with us and to remain flexible as we continue on. So like I said, we're going to be moving into this haul in, haul out, 1-day show schedules. At this point in time, these are the events that are scheduled that we will not be doing because we're trying to get by with the bare minimum in order to have our junior fair exhibition. So all of the senior fair events have been canceled, which we've known that from the beginning. So there won't be, there won't be rides, there won't be open shows. So none of our open shows or fun shows are like our Cloverbud Rabbit show. And some of those things had to be a hard choice for, Jo and I and our committees. When you think about, and I know we love our Cloverbud kids and them having fun, but it's really, really hard. It's hard for adults to understand social distancing and wearing masks. I can only imagine what it's like for 5 to 8-year-olds. So I really feel for, teachers come this fall, depending on all their stipulations that they're going to have. So, these are some things that we figured that we're just going to have to go with this in order to keep those kids safe. So our special needs show is also going to be canceled. The Olympics, and probably the biggest one that's really been a hard hit for Jo and I is the Showman of Showmen. That's one of our favorite shows at the fair. So those ones were big ones for us that it's hard to let that go, because with our animals just hauling in and hauling out one day, they're just not going to be there on Friday for that. Our booths, our beautification, tablescapes, Clover Bud, and of course our carcass contest has been canceled for this year. So this is what our fair schedule looks like right now, as of, an hour ago when I finished typing some of this stuff in. And there's probably a few changes and things that I'm going to have to move some stuff around. So we're going to have a check-in time every morning, which is why some of our shows, if they weren't already, have been bumped to the evening, because animals are going to be coming and checking in every morning. With them coming and checking in every morning, we need some time. We have a lot of key volunteers, or a few key volunteers that work really closely with compiling all of that information for our livestock shows, and I cannot be more grateful for them and the work that they put into that. So we're going to need some time to compile all of our livestock information, our weights, our tag numbers, who's here, who's not here, to get those show bills ready. So a few of our shows have been bumped to a little later in the evening. So for those of you, I know a few of you are on your phone, so I guess I'll walk you guys through some of this. So Monday is when our sheep will check in from 7 to 9 a.m. And all of our large animal livestock, so our sheep, our goats, our pigs, and our beef, they will be weighed as they come off the trailer. So they will be weighed, and then they can be put into their pens. And we'll do it kind of the way that our pigs do. So our pigs are used to this. This is normal for them. So we're going to have them come and check in between 7 and 9 in the morning. They'll be weighed, and then they can head to their pens. This applies to our market animals. Obviously, our breeding and our dairy animals won't need to be weighed. Our poultry projects will check in from 7 to 8. We don't weigh those. Our rabbits, we do weigh, so they will be weighed as they check in and as they arrive as well, from 7 to 8 on Tuesday. So for Monday, let me get back on track on my Monday. So Monday, sheep will check in from 7 to 9 a.m. They'll be weighed as they come off the trailer. Poultry will check in from 7 to 8 a.m. And then our poultry show will begin at 10 a.m. Our sheep show will begin at 3 p.m. And for all of our livestock shows, we're going to begin with our showmanship classes first. And then that will have, and the way that our committee looked at it is we'd like to have our champions picked in the evening, somewhere between 7 and 8 o'clock in the evening. So this will allow for, and I know that it's been a difficult situation within our communities with, people being off work and coming back and forth to work or changing jobs. So we were trying to have that more in the evening, so that way it would be less time that parents and families would have to take off work in order to be able to come to support their kiddos. So then Tuesday, kind of the same drill. Rabbits will be checked in from 7 to 8 a.m. and they'll be weighed as they arrive. Our goats will check in from 7 to 9 a.m., also be weighed as they arrive for market. Our rabbit show will begin right at 10 a.m., and then our goat show will begin with our dairy pack and pygmy at 11 a.m. Then the market goat show will begin at 3 p.m. with showmanship first. Then they will move into commercial production, and then our actual market goat show will begin after that. Wednesday for pigs, they'll arrive from 7 to 9, be weighed off the trailer and then pinned. And the swine show will begin at 4 p.m. in the afternoon with showmanship first. I can already see that I have a typo in there. So our beef check-in on Thursday will be from 7 to 9 a.m. Our steers will be weighed as they come off the trailers. And then our beef show will begin at 6 p.m. with our showmanship first. I'll talk about horses in just a second because they're going to fall a little different. So for Friday, our dairy check-in will be at 7 to 9 a.m. and the dairy show will begin right at 9 a.m. So our horse shows will begin both days at 9 a.m. They will be just Thursday and Friday. We've already got our show schedule and everything set for those. So for horses, with our other species, we're only going to be setting up a specific number of pins. So we will all be sharing the same pins. So that means we're going to have to clean and disinfect those pins between each show every evening. So 2 hours after your show, we're going to have our livestock projects moved out. And then we're going to have you clean your own pins and disinfect, and then we'll go back through and disinfect again that evening so they'll have time to dry. Horses, that won't apply to because they're only going to be the only ones using that stall. So horses will be allowed to arrive Wednesday evening after midnight, so technically it'll be Thursday morning, anytime anytime before 8 a.m. So horses will have to be on the fairgrounds by 8 a.m. Now, several kids and families have horses that are showing both days, so horses will be the only ones that are allowed to stay from Thursday to Friday. So those will be the only animals that are staying overnight. We still wanted to be able to provide our outstanding exhibitor awards and in order to give our outstanding exhibitor awards, we have to have a skill-a-thon score. So our skill-a-thon is going to be virtually this year. And because of that, there's a lot of restrictions when it comes to cleaning and disinfecting. So there's a lot of bits and pieces that are associated with our normal skill-a-thon kits. So disinfecting and cleaning all of those leaves a lot of room for error, and it's going to take a lot of time. So what we've decided to do, at least just for this year, is to have our skill-a-thon all online, and we have some times that are going to be blocked off every day where those kids can come and complete their skill-a-thon. So it'll be 8 a.m. to noon, Sunday through Friday. Now, the kicker of this is you have to get your skill-a-thon completed before you show, because we typically hand out those skill-a-thon awards during that show. And since that's the only day that those kids are going to be there, we'll hand out their outstanding exhibitor awards that same evening or the same day as their show. So you'll have to complete your skill-a-thon before you show. It won't do you any good to complete it the day after because we'll have already handed out those awards. So we'll have a station set up where we have some laptops and iPads in order to be able to do that. And since it just requires a device, you could bring your own phone and you could complete it on your own phone and not use any of our devices. And that would actually be more beneficial for us because it's less things that we have to clean and disinfect and touch. So, that helps eliminate some of those touch points. Jo, did you want to talk about project judging in the Queen's Contest? Or well, we have some slides for it here later, so we can talk a little bit more in depth about that so then you can see it and some of this more about as well. But you'll see that we're going to have our still project judging, which is our non-livestock projects. They're going to be judged on Saturday. I basically put 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. because we weren't quite sure, so I just basically put a block of time. We'll have some more definite time after those kids have registered. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. The Queen's Contest is going to be Saturday. Those kids will be interviewed throughout the day. Counting is going to be 7 o'clock at night. I have a specific slide for that, so we'll talk a little bit more about that here in in just a second. And you can see that our livestock sale is going to be online. I have some more information about that here in a few. So like I was talking about our junior fair pin information, exhibitors are going to have the option to be able to show off their trailer. You're not going to be required to use a stall. So we will have some pins that are set up. So that way kids can use those if they need to. But if you want to come and work out of your trailer, you can do that option as well. So the grassy area where we typically have all of our food vendors set up, we're going to allow people that are showing out of their trailers to park up there. So say that you are coming Monday and you have a lamb, but your family or the kids in your club are all going to just show off of your trailer. So you can come and park your trailer over there, and you can walk your lambs over for weigh-in, and leave your breeding projects by your trailer, and you can just work out of that all day, or have a pop-up tent or whatever is going to work best for you if you choose not to use a pin. And that's great because that's going to help us space out in the barn more. So I'm actually encouraging people to work off of their trailer if they have that option. But we will have pins set up for you if you cannot accommodate that, so that's fine. If you do use a stall, we are going to ask that you strip it completely and sanitize it after your animal has been removed. So typically in a normal year, we have some individuals that are completing community service that come and help us to clean up and sanitize and do a lot of different cleaning things during the week of the fair, and we're not going to have that ability this year. So this is one of those pieces where I've been talking about since the beginning, that we may have our families and our clubs that are required to do more or different things than what they have been in the past. And we've been very lucky in that regards, that we have had that option, having those individuals come to clean up some of that stuff for us. But this year that's not going to be available. So we're going to ask that our families contribute a little more in that regards to help us get stuff cleaned up and get stuff ready for the next day, because we're going to have to sanitize and clean everything every evening after each show, and that's obviously going to be a late evening for us. So animals will be pinned and weighed as they arrive, we talked about. Another piece to this, there's not going to be any premiums. We are not going to have passes, and that means we don't need stall reservations, because where our kids have submitted their animal identification information through our tag-in system, our online tag-in system, we have the numbers that we need, and we pretty much know, close to what's going to be there, so we can guesstimate about the number that we're going to need in order to have enough space for everybody. So we talked about that skill-a-thon information. Like I said, we're going to be using some devices in order to be able to do that. We are renting some hotspots and some computers from the university that's going to allow us to be able to do that. But again, I'm going to encourage you, if you want to bring your own smartphone and do that, that's just going to make everything a little more safer and easier for us. So we'll have some volunteers and possibly some junior fair board kids there to help troubleshoot, but you don't have to keep coming back or go to different stations. We'll have enough laptops and stuff there that if you want to sit down and if you take every single project, you can do all of your skill-a-thons in one hit and just come, right at the beginning and work through all of those. So we'll also have some sign-in sheets to know who's there and who came through our process when they completed their skill-a-thon. Okay, Jo, do you want to talk about still project judging?
Sure. So this year, our plan for still project judging, food judging, clothing judging, and small animal judging is that we will be holding it the Saturday prior to the fair starting, August 8th, and we're going to hold it at the fairgrounds. It'll be probably in the 4-H building and maybe also in the commercial building where GAMPS usually has their tractors set up. They said we could use any of those buildings. The school building's usually super hot, so I don't know that we may skip that building. But we are planning to set our judges up. Tables will be spaced way far apart since we have use of all those buildings. Kids who want to come through project judging in person, our kids need, well, even not in person, but our kids need to pre-register for project judging this year. You should have received an email earlier this week with the link to the questionnaire for you to register for projects. And so those 4-H members can go in online and fill out that registration, and there are little drop-down boxes that ask, you know, what projects they're taking, so they find their project and click on it. And that registration process, that questionnaire will allow them to register for 4 projects. If you have a child that wants to register to be judged in more than 4 projects, just send me an email and we'll work through that. But most of our kids don't take more than 4 through judging. So we just went with that 4. So kids have to register by Monday, July 27th. The link will be open until the end of the day that day. And then after that, what we're going to do is go through and compile who all has signed up for project judging. That way we can then assign times. So those who have registered will then receive an email from us with their assigned time for judging. And we will have their time assigned, so they'll be asked in that email that goes out with their assigned time. They'll have instructions for project judging, like arriving no more than 5 minutes before their judging time, staying in their car until they're ready, and we'll contact them to come in. All of our participants who are going through judging will need to wear masks, whether we're on red alert or not, because this is a 4-H event, and right now 4-H in-person events, we have to wear masks. So participants and judges will be asked to wear masks, but the kids will come to judging, and we will send them instructions with their assigned time on how that's going to work. One thing that will be different this year, though, for food project kids is we're going to just judge food projects the same way we judge all of our still projects. So they can make a poster or their portfolio notebook that most of them make on a typical year and bring that to judging along with their completed project book. They don't have to prepare the food item and bring it, or their place setting and all of that stuff. It's just going to be judged more in an interview fashion with their project book and their portfolio or a poster, whatever they would prefer. So those projects, those will all be done. I think we can probably get them all done on Saturday. So we're shooting for just Saturday, August 8th. The thing, if we have any youth who want to go through project judging but are not comfortable coming in person, that's totally okay. We're totally all right with that. They just need to contact me, send me an email. We will assign them a judging time, and we will do their judging virtually. We can either do that through Zoom, or we can do, if a child has access to an Apple, like an iPhone or an iPad or something like that, we can do a FaceTime interview with the judge. So if folks need to have that virtual option, we will accommodate that this year. And I think Josie mentioned the Fair Queen contest earlier when she had the schedule up. Our Fair Queen applications were due yesterday, I believe. So those folks that applied for Fair Queen will, they'll hear from the Queen's committee members, and they will give them an assigned interview time. Again, it's going to be similar to our project judging, where they're going to be asked to not all come and wait together. We're going to have each candidate, when they have their assigned time, we'll have them, the interviews are going to be in the house there at the fairgrounds where our office is. But the candidates will need to wait in the car until they're called in, so they're only coming in one at a time. And they'll get more information on that from the Queen's Committee. They'll contact them directly. But those interviews will happen during the day Saturday, and then the crowning will be at 7 p.m. Saturday evening. And then I'll turn it back over to you, Josie.
Okay, so the junior fair sale this year is going to be online. So what that's going to look like, that means that we're not going to have a sale on Saturday. We shouldn't have anything on Saturday as far as that goes, as far as animals or shows taking place. But in order for us to have our online sale, and this is what our junior fair committee and our sale committee has decided to go with this year, just to make it safer for everyone. Last week, Jo and I did meet with a couple of our senior fair board members and a tech person in order to look at this new online sales system. And so if you've ever seen, and to compare it to something, it kind of looks like eBay or something, where kids will have the ability to put their information in, and we're going to send out a survey just like we had our kids register their animals online where they put their tag in information. So they'll be able to put some specific information in, and that's some information that we're going to need from those kids. So a part of that is you're not going to be able to submit multiple surveys per child. So it's going to be really important that our families work together to make sure that that information is going to be input in there correctly. Like it's going to ask information for your parent or guardian information, because typically on our sale bill, and we understand this because our buyers don't necessarily know the kids very well in person. It may be, their family members or their parents that's coming in and doing some business within these different facilities. So they're looking for parents' names that they know more specifically than kids. So we're going to put our parent or guardian information on there, but there's only going to be one box for that. So you can put additional parent information, but that's going to be the important part of these families working together to make sure that information is in there correctly. If you have a blended family, making sure that you have all the appropriate people in there. If you have mom, dad, stepmom, stepdad, whatever information that is, but we're not going to have the opportunity to edit it during the fair like we typically do, when we can hang up the sale bill and leave time for that to be edited. We're not going to have that time to be able to do that with this online sale information. We've already begun to put kids' information in there into our online sale, so we know based on the tag-in information. So we're going to have to go back and remove kids that choose not to exhibit, animals that don't make weight, people that choose not to go through the sale for whatever reason. So with just that amount of editing that's going to be taking place, we're not going to have time to do edits during the week of the fair. In other regards. So making sure that you sit down and put that specific information in. And this online survey is going to be available tomorrow, and it'll be open for about 2 weeks where you can put that information in there. One thing that it's going to ask is for you to submit a photo if you choose to. So if you want to submit a photo of your child and their animal to be put on there, they can do that. I do ask that you dress appropriately. Have your animal cleaned up and looking nice. We typically have our buyers that come to the fair during the week of the fair, and they watch the shows and they get to talk and interact with the kids. And this is a piece that they're going to be missing that they're not necessarily going to have this year. So you want to dress nice and represent yourself and your club and your animal project well. So make sure that I would encourage people to wear show attire. I think that would look nice and make a nice quality photo. So, take some opportunities when you have a sunny day to take some trial photos and, pick one that you really like. There's also going to be a spot where you can put some descriptive information. And so by descriptive information, it's only going to be 300 characters. So you're not going to be able to, type an entire novel. It's going to be more like a tweet or a Facebook post that's very minimal. So some things that you can put in there would be, your years in 4-H, maybe what school you attend, the projects that you've taken, some things that you've learned, and the club that you're involved in. So that's some good information that you can put on there, because not having that interaction with those buyers, this is going to be a place where you can, showcase yourself and, sell yourself a little bit and talk about some of the great things that you've done or that you've done in the past. And since this information is going to be submitted ahead of time, you're not necessarily going to be able to put in all the information of the stuff that you've achieved this year at the fair, but you could talk about some stuff that you've done in the past, as far as maybe some specific awards and things that you've received. Now, we will be able to go in and edit, who our champions and stuff are, but kids are going to be listed on there in alphabetical order by species. I'm sure we will be able to bring the champions to the top, but they will be listed in alphabetical order. And so buyers will have to create an account in order to go in and to donate. And that's basically what they're doing. They're donating a specific amount to you as an individual. That's part of what this premium sale is. They're not exactly buying your animal per se. So the other piece of this that I'm sure everybody's curious about is what are we doing with our animals? So I have, a great team of people that I've been working with, and we've been talking to processing facilities and stockyards. And if you've tried to get an animal in to make an appointment right now, it's pretty much non-existent unless you're willing to wait until November of 2021. So we've been working pretty diligently on that from the beginning and communicating with those processing facilities to figure out where we're going to be able to find spots for those animals. So for goats, we're going to have, so for our goats, our sheep, and our steers, and obviously our rabbits and chickens, we're going to have trucks available there to send those to the larger processors, more of like the stockyards type facilities. The problem this year is our stockyards facilities do not want hogs. They've declined to bid this year. And due to what we thought was going to be our big issue for the year and has turned out to be very minimal when compared to the coronavirus, is ractopamine. So that was an issue back at the beginning of the year that we were talking about a lot. And those buyers and facilities that's still on their radar, and they're still concerned about that ractopamine being in those hogs, and having a guarantee that it's not there. So they've decided that they just don't really want to take fair pigs this year, and they're very hesitant on that. But what's great for us is we do have some local processing facilities that are holding spots for us. So J&M, which is in McDermott, Chasing Cattle, which is in Minford, which is a newer facility, and Garrison's that is in Kentucky, Garrison, Kentucky. Those facilities are holding spots for us. So they're holding spots for our fair animals. So our pigs are going to have, and this is an option for this year that we've never given in the past. Well, we haven't given especially for hogs, is that people are going to have the option to either take their animal home, to send it to the stockyards, or send it to a local processing facility. Hogs will not be able to go to a stockyards. So they're only going to go to a local processing facility, or they're going to have the option to take the animal home. So what we are going to provide is we're going to provide trucks to get your animals there, and we are providing spots for those animals. Now, it is going to be up to our families to determine if somebody wants the meat of that animal, then they're going to have to coordinate that themselves. With our online sale option, we're not going to be able to police who gets the animal for processing. So if somebody chooses to send a sheep or a steer or a pig to a local processing facility, they're going to have to coordinate that themselves. So if you want to have that animal processed and you want to take that meat home for your own personal use, that's great. In this online survey, we're going to have choices of where you can pick which option of where your animal is going to go. And so if you pick a local processing facility, then you just need to let us know who is going to be the one that's going to be responsible for it. So when Chasing Cattle needs to call that person to find out their cutting instructions, they have that contact information. If you decide to sell that animal to somebody for the meat, and your neighbor, or you have a buyer that contacts you and they would like to have your hog processed for their own use, you're going to coordinate that yourself. So if you decide to charge somebody X amount per pound, 40 cents, whatever you decide, you're going to coordinate that between you and that buyer that wants to process that animal. So they can pay you directly. That money for processing it locally is not going to run through us like it has in the past. But if you decide to send your animal to the stockyards, you will still get your market check. So I know I don't seem to explain this very well when I explain it to people. So if you guys have questions, be sure to post it in our question and answer. Or Jo, if you think you can make it make sense a little better. I know that I've struggled to say it in the past.
I think you did a fine job this time.
Okay, I had to think this through, and I actually stole this quote from Laura Garrett, so thank you, Laura, for putting my thoughts into words very appropriately. So like I said, that online survey is going to be available beginning tomorrow, and like I said before, it's going to ask you, your name, your parent information, what species you're going to be taking, as far as your market animal goes. So only our market kids are going to have to fill out this survey, not anybody that's taking a breeding or dairy project, just our market kids, because this is sale information that's going to be dumped into our online auction. And so I know I haven't explained the online auction very well and given you guys much details when it comes to that online sale, but we are currently still meeting with the Fair Board and their tech people that are piecing that information together so that they can get this information publicized and get a letter out to all of our buyers explaining how this process is going to work. Just to let you know, it's probably going to be open for 2 weeks, starting Saturday after the sale, or that Saturday of the fair. So the 15th is when it'll be open. And I think we're going to leave it open until the end of August, first day of September, which is roughly about 2 weeks. So people will be able to go in and, put money on the kids that they want to put money on, maybe a day or so, and they won't be charged until the end of that 2-week period. So they can go in and out and make some changes. Go in and, maybe they forgot somebody and they want to put, more money on some more kids, or however they want to do it. But they are also going to set up some times for some in-person opportunities. So if we do have people and buyers that are struggling with, the technology process or the payment process, they will have an option to be able to come to us and we can help them work through that. So I don't have all the specific details yet. I'm hoping, early or sometime next week, I'll have a little bit more information as we meet and we sit down to type up this news release of what everything's going to look like. But it does seem to be very user-friendly and very, very easy to use. So I'm kind of excited about it. I think it may be, a new opportunity for us. So we'll see, we'll see how it goes. But the one plus side of this is with everything going through within that 2 weeks, kids will be able to get their checks a lot sooner. It's still going to take some time to process all of that and to cut the checks for everything, but we will be able to get kids paid pretty quickly through this avenue for us. So just remember for our market kids to be looking for that survey starting tomorrow, and they can begin to work on that this weekend, and I'll type up something that basically tells you what information that you're going to need, so that way kids can have all that stuff ready before they go to put all the information into their surveys. Jo, you want to talk about clover buds?
So, as Josie mentioned earlier, we won't be having our typical clover bud interviews during the fair. We just, with trying to social distance and be safe, we figured that would be a struggle. But we do want to recognize those clover buds because we realize this is, as rough as this year has been on the older 4-H members and volunteers and us, those clover buds, what they're getting at 4-H meetings is usually activities. And so trying to do that through virtual means and Zooms, they've had a rough go of it this year. So we still want to recognize them. So what we're going to do is we're going to offer the opportunity, if you have clover buds in your club, before the start of the shows, when we say the pledges, so that would actually be before we start showmanship for each of those species. We'll say the pledges, and then we will recognize any clover buds that happen to be there that day. So we'll just tell them to come forward and we will hand them their ribbon. We're not going to be able to do, because of the policies on how awards are even supposed to be handed out, from the state. We'll have our royalty hand each one of them their clover bud ribbon, and that way somebody can snap a photo if you want, parents or advisors. And they will still be able to get their ribbons this year. We don't want them to get totally left to the wayside. So we will just pass out clover bud ribbons to those who are, and we ask kids only come once, one day, to receive their clover bud award, but we will have them get their awards prior to the show each day. So if they have siblings showing a specific species, they can, and they're there that day for the show, they can get their ribbon. If they don't have any siblings showing, they can just pick which day works best for their schedule and be there at the beginning of the show, and we will recognize them. And I see there's a question if we'll do that during Still Project Judging Day. We're still trying to figure out an opportunity for Still Project awards. So we could potentially, depending on how that's going to look, the award ceremony, we could potentially be able to have some ribbons there to hand out to clover buds then. I hadn't thought about that yet, but we'll look at that. Small animals and dogs, sorry. I took my finger off my unmute button. Our small animals will be judged the same day as Still Projects. So if you have kids in your club, or if you are a 4-H member who takes a cat project or a pet rabbit project, those will be judged on the Saturday prior to the start of the fair. And those will be judged just like Still Projects. So you have to go in and sign up in that email, the link that was sent out on that questionnaire. You need to sign up to be judged there, and we will notify you with a time. Dogs, because our dog clubs could not do anything in person until here just recently, we're postponing our dog show because we want to give those kids time to actually be able to work with their animals. And right now with the level red, the code 3, we're not sure how that's going to affect being, how long that's going to stay in effect and things like that. So at this point, we're going to postpone our dog show until fall, hopefully. And so we'll send more information out to our dog kids about that.
Okay, so, whoops, sorry. So it is time to work down through our question and answers. And I was scanning through those, and we have a lot of really good questions. And I'm glad that you guys are asking questions because it's helping answering some of the things that I wanted to hit on that I forgot to. So I saw that Dwayne asked first about our live option. So at our shows, we want people to remain safe. And so for those that are, worried about being out there and they want to remain to social distance and have, compromised immune systems, we are going to offer some live opportunities for our shows. Dwayne, I'll get with you to talk with you about it for a few more details, but I've been watching some of the other county fairs and they seem to be setting up some Facebook Live videos and letting those run throughout their shows so that all of it could be publicized. So I think that's something that we're looking into doing that, and we'll have some hot spots that we're renting from the university that I think will give us the opportunity to be able to do those. And with our skill-a-thons being in the morning and a majority of our livestock shows in the evening, I think that's something that we can accomplish pretty easily. So we are going to have those live options where people can, still view our shows and watch their kids and, watch people in their club from the safeties of their own home. So that is an option that we are going to be able to provide for people. So we have a question about, will masks be required during livestock shows if we move from red to orange or yellow? So currently what the governor has shared in regards to our livestock shows is that participants are not required to wear them when they're showing, because if we have a minimum number or a maximum number of kids in the ring at a time and help to space those out, and since we do have an outdoor facility with our large fans that are going, that should help that process. So per his current guidelines, our participants that are in the ring at the time shouldn't be required to wear them. Our next question is,
I was going to say that kind of applies to the next one as well, showing horses.
Yes. Are buyers going to have the ability to see if there are any kids that haven't had bidders? So that's a great question. Something that they showed us during our preview of what the online sale looked like was that you should have the ability to be able to sort pretty easily out some different kids. So being able to sort if there was, if there was a kid that only had one bidder or one donation, or being able to sort it based on price, like is there a kid that only has $100 or less, and it would show you those kids. So it should be able, it's not going to be open to the public. So somebody wouldn't be able to just go look at our site. You would actually have to register as a buyer and putting in your bank account information or your card information before you would be able to see. But the buyers that are listed should be able to comb through the kids and look to see how much they already have. So if they're looking for those kids that need a little more help, they should be able to sort through those and pull those out pretty easily. So yes, for the next question is for market. So the sale is for all market animals, even with ones that are chosen to take home. And that's yes, because it is a premium bid, and the buyer isn't actually buying that animal per se. This year, kids will have the option to take their animals home if they choose to keep it and still be able to go through the sale and receive their premium bid. They just won't receive any type of, market value for that animal.
And this is all just
will there be
different this year?
Sorry.
As we're trying to make accommodations and get through this year, all of the things that we're doing right now may not be the same again next year. Kids, depending on what next year looks like, hopefully we can animals that go through the sale will actually have to not be able to go home, and they'll go to the stockyards or to the slaughterhouses. But this year is just a unique situation, so we're trying to be able to make accommodations so everybody can still participate and have the best experience possible.
Yes. So the next question is, will there be wash pens available to clean up animals before they show? So yes, we will have our wash pens available. What we do ask is that you try to get your animals as cleaned and clipped as best you can before you bring that animal, because those are some places that are high touch points. So you have a lot of people that are going to be, wanting to be in the wash racks, or, wanting to use those different things, and a lot of people are going to be touching them. So we're going to have to make sure to sanitize those periodically, but they will be available. We just ask that you do a majority of your clipping and grooming and bathing at home. So then, it's not like you just pulled that pig right out of the mud and brought it to the fairgrounds. If you can get the majority of it cleaned up, and then you can just do some touch-up cleaning when you get there, that will help eliminate some of those different touch points. And somebody did bring up a good point as we were talking about kids having the ability to take those animals home. The one that doesn't apply to is your grand and reserve champion animals, and just your overall grand and your overall reserve. It doesn't apply to your county born and bred animals. So those champions have to be terminal animals. So they have to go either to a stockyards or a local processing facility.
And they have to leave on one of our trucks. You can't haul them there yourself.
That is correct. Can an advisor collect clover bud ribbons for their club? Yes. So if you have, we don't want to punish any of those clover bud kids. We still want them to have a good positive experience and continue to come back and to be involved in our 4-H program. So if they choose not to come this year, just let us know and we can package those ribbons up for you and have them ready if you want to swing by and pick them up, either during that week or, if you want to come down to our office, because our office in Portsmouth at the courthouse will still be open that week. So we can, get those down there if you don't want to come out to the fairgrounds. Just let us know what works best for you. Next question, does there need to be an advisor at each one of the shows where we have members showing? So no, that's kind of the same for every year, even though we do appreciate our club advisors being there to help be, a second parent and to be involved. We are trying to limit the amount of people that are at our shows as possible. We don't currently have a number restriction, but, if kids have parents that are capable of helping them and, being there with them to support them, then you do not necessarily have to be there. Ooh, my goodness. Sorry.
The next
Some
question.
of you guys struggle with technical difficulties, so do we. We've never used the webinar system like we're using today, so I get a little bit of a grace period too.
The next question is, will the online instructions be sent to buyers? And they will. That's what Josi will be meeting with the folks that are setting up the system and some senior fair board members to work on those letters that are going to be going out to buyers. They're meeting next week to do that.
Yes. For swine exhibitors, will the top end weight be waived or extended? So we haven't discussed this with our committee yet, so I can't say right now. I know a couple years ago we did extend that top end weight and brought it up to 290 from where it used to be at about 280, 285. So that rule would have to be passed by our committees and passed by our senior fair board. So that's something that we can possibly look at. Do the chickens go back home or will they be loaded into the stock trailer after the show? So we will have a buyer there that will be picking up like a stockyards type facility that will be picking up our rabbits and our chickens. So they should be there. We are hoping, depending on our schedules, we know that our stockyards trailers are going to be able to be there every evening after the shows. A couple of those local processing facilities said that they're going to be able to be there. There is one or two that we're currently working with because depending on their dates or inspections that they have going on and not having the ability to hold a large number of animals at once, we're not quite sure exactly if they're going to be able to be there. So in that case where we may not have that, let's say that you want to send your pig or your goat to Garrison's that's in Kentucky, for example, and they're not able to be there that evening, what we're going to have to ask for those animals and those families to do is to take that animal home and then bring it back either Friday or Saturday when they are able to come to get those animals. So we have a couple that we're not completely for sure of. Some of them we definitely do know that they're going to be able to be there the same day as the show so they can hop on those trucks. The other ones, we're still working through a couple details with those to try to figure out, what's going to work best for that processing facility. And right now, beggars can't be choosers, and these are the ones that are willing to work with us. So we're just going to have to work with them as best we can. And even though that's not an ideal situation for people, it may have to happen with a couple of our facilities. We haven't got a clear answer completely yet on that. So we're working through that, and with us just moving to these one-day shows as of Monday, we're still communicating with those facilities, and they're doing great. They're working They're working with us, and I'm so grateful that they're working with us, because I know a lot of these processing facilities are completely booked up and they have no space. So, I'm just glad that we have 3 facilities that are willing to hold spots for us and not 1 or none, which is what a lot of counties are dealing with right now. So that may be where we may have to have some flexibility. Animals may have to go home and then come back on the weekend in order to get on those trucks. But we'll be sure to let everybody know as soon as I have some different concrete information when it comes to that.
So the next question is, are we going to have flyers for the online sale for kids to pass out with their letters?
So typically we put together that letter and that information that we send out to buyers that has all of that instructions. After we have that compiled and put together, I can share that with our club advisors if, they need that to give to kids for their buyers. So once we have that document together, I would be happy to share it with our advisors and our kids.
And and as Josie mentioned, we typically mail, any existing buyers will receive that information from us. It will get mailed directly to them if they bought at the sale last year. Not from us, but from the Fair Board.
So what I would encourage is, when it comes to those flyers and that information, just if you have a new buyer is who I would share that with. So then we're not, repeatedly giving them the same stuff over and over.
And then the next question says, so you're saying we can sell our animal online, but we can bring it home?
Yes. So for this year, where we said, we're trying to be flexible and make things work, that's an option. It wouldn't have to go to the stockyards. If you want to still run it through the sale, you can choose to still take that animal home. And if you want to keep it as a pet, you want to take it and continue your show season, or if you want to take it to a different facility later on, that'll be completely up to you. So this year is different, and that's one of the instances.
And one of the things is that you're not actually selling your animal online. It's a premium bid, so it's basically the buyer's giving a donation to our kids, which is basically what it is every year. None of our buyers are actually buying the animal when they put those bids together. I mean, buying the animal, then they have to separately decide to buy the animal. And of the 20 people who put donations down for your kid, if one of them decides.
You're muted.
Sorry. They have the opportunity to buy the animal, but there are many animals that go through the sale that none of the buyers take the meat, so that animal goes to the stockyards, or and the kids still get the money. So it's just it's online, but it's not a sale. They're not selling the animal. It's just donations to the kids as a reward for completing their project. The next question is, can 4-H kids still send letters to buyers? I think we encourage them.
Of course they can
do that. Yeah.
Yes. So we always encourage our kids to, invite buyers, and that's how we get new buyers, and they want to hear from the kids. Our buyers, they like to hear from those kids and to see what they've been doing. So we encourage, our kids to send letters to buyers, and don't specifically ask them to put money on your animal. Invite them to come and to support the sale and to support the junior fair exhibitors and the 4-H and FFA kids that are putting in, this work. They like to hear about the good things that our kids are doing.
And I think the thing this year, when you send those letters to the buyers, you can change it up this year and say, our 4-H year has been very different this year, but we've still worked hard on our projects, and we would appreciate if you would support the online sale. I mean, we're calling it a sale, but we would appreciate if you would support the online sale. Here's the information, and when we have that information and we send it out to all of you, you can say, here's the link to log on and create an account, and we appreciate you supporting the youth of our community.
So will we still be selling just the top 25 rabbits and chickens? Yes, we are still just selling the top 25 of those small animals. If an animal is under or overweight, will they still get to sell? So no, there's still the stipulation of those animals having that weight limit, and having that weight limit is required, and part of that is ODA guidelines. So they have guidelines where they have minimum weight requirements. Each county can differ a little bit from that, but they can't be less than what that is, and that just ensures that our kids are raising quality, wholesome animals. You know, we shouldn't be sending a 40-pound goat to slaughter because they're just not ready and they're not finished enough at that point. So, you know, we still want to make sure that we're encouraging our kids and our families to, you know, complete those projects as far as finishing their animal and having that wholesome quality project. So if you choose to, for example, we have a parent that says they're sending their child's pig to, they would like to send their child's pig to J&M to have it processed for their family. Will they be taking hogs from the show, or do they have to arrange to get that to him another time? So no, if you are bringing your animal to the fair as your junior fair project, we have those facilities set up and they're holding spaces for us. So the only thing that you have to coordinate is if or who wants the meat from that animal. So we have those spots held and reserved. You don't have to call and make another spot unless you have a spare or a second animal that you're looking to take and you're going to be taking it yourself, then you're still going to have to coordinate that. But our junior fair exhibitor animals that are coming to the fair, we have spots for them if you want to send your animal to a local processing facility. But you're still going to be responsible for paying that processing fee and stuff for that animal. So we'll get it there for you and we have the spots reserved, but it'll be your responsibility to coordinate if or who that person is that wants it and if you're going to exchange any money in that process. How long will the link be to be set up for the sale? So even if we have the link ready for the sale and for people to go in and register, it's not going to be open for people to register until, you know, probably the week of the fair, or even not until that Saturday. I don't know if they'll have it open ahead of time because we don't want buyers to go in and bid on kids' animals that won't be at the fair necessarily. So, you know, we could have a kid that tagged in an animal, but then they've chosen not to bring it to the fair for whatever reason. So that's why we won't have it open until after we've picked our champions and after everybody's showed.
And yes, when we've talked to the people who've set up the online sale, they said it will go live on the 15th, which is Saturday that the fair ends.
So another question that we had in here is if we can't show due to if we would get shut down for whatever reason, will we still have a sale? And yes. So if worst case scenario happens and we have to cancel our junior fair and cancel our shows and we can't do anything that week, we can still have our online sale for our animals and we can still truck our animals. We could, you know, potentially what I'm planning in the back of my head, and this is not set in stone, this is, you know, me having a plan B, because in order for me to function, I have to have a plan B. So my plan B is if for whatever reason the fair gets canceled, we could still have all of our kids' information that they're going to submit online, and we could still have our trucks come, say, you know, Friday, Saturday, one day that weekend, have our kids bring their animals, put them on the truck, and we can still do our online sale. So, and we have talked about that within our committee meetings, and, you know, they were still committed to being able to do that, because I know that some of our families are not, you know, set up to keep those animals. And, you know, if the local processing facilities aren't open until 2021 or have spots available, then, you know, I want to make sure that our kids have a market and have a place to be able to send those animals at the end of their project. So we have another question. It says, I missed stuff at the beginning. Will the market rabbits be pinned and shown as normal? So yes, the rabbit show, what did I say?
Well,
So the rabbit show is on Tuesday. So that means that rabbit check-in will be from 7 to 8 a.m. on Tuesday, and the rabbits will be shown. The show starts at 10 a.m. and we will have pins available, some pins available. So, and we are asking even our rabbit and chicken kids, if you have your own pins or carriers and want to use those and don't want to use our own pins, you can per se, show out of your trailer just like our large animals are doing as well. And they will weigh those market rabbits as they arrive on the fairgrounds between 7 and 8 a.m.
I think the next one was already answered. So then do chickens go back home, or are they loaded in a stock trailer after the show? We will have someone coming to get chickens. I guess if you want to take your chickens home, you can, just like any other animal this year, I assume, right, Josie?
Sure.
But if you're planning to do that, you'll probably need to let us know that ahead of time, because when we contact the people that put the bids in on the rabbits and chickens, they want to know how many they're coming for. And if everybody this year would decide to take their chickens home, we might have to, or if there's only 2 pens of chickens that aren't being taken home, we might have to figure out a different plan.
Can guests come and watch the show? So right now we don't have any restrictions as far as how many people are allowed to be there for our shows. Of course, we want to try to limit that and to keep it, as minimal as possible. So we don't have, a lot of exposure or, a lot of people commingling, keeping those large gatherings down. So we don't have any restrictions as far as numbers go at the moment. For the beef, will there be for beef projects, will there be cement tie-outs or will they be showing off trailers? So just like the rest of our animals, we will still have the cement ties there available for our beef and our dairy projects. So you can choose to tie your animal, or if you want to show out of your trailer, you will have that option as well. Can we haul our own to a local butcher once the show is done, or does it need to be transported on one of your trailers?
If you have your own appointment, I suppose, right? Or how's that going to work, Josie?
I don't know that we've completely discussed that yet. I know that there is a chain of custody involved, especially when it comes to our champions. So I would say that definitely if it's going to the stockyards, it's going to have to get on one of those trucks. And in the past, our processing facilities have been responsible for paying for those truck drivers to come and get those animals. So I would say that if we're still doing that, then they probably need to get on those trucks. I would hate for those processing facilities that are working with us to accommodate us are paying drivers to come and get those animals and then we not use them. So depending on, and that was kind of a discussion that Jo and I had personally earlier, is, if we have some difficulty with our not being able to send animals to local processing facilities the same day and they have to come back on the weekend, and possibly allowing those families to take them directly. So once we find out for sure whether or not those facilities that we kind of have in limbo at the moment are going to be able to be there on, for example, Wednesday of the hog show, if they're not going to be able to get animals until Friday or Saturday, then we would potentially allow those families to haul them themselves. For the fancy rabbit shows, can an advisor pick up all the paperwork for all of the kids on Saturday? Do you mean like tagging or tattooing on Saturday? Because if the animal hasn't been tattooed, then it will need to come to get tattooed. If it has been tattooed, you can come and pick up the paperwork and then have it turned in
It has to
Monday
be turned.
next week.
I was gonna say it would have to be turned in Monday if you pick it up Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
because normally we have that paperwork due. You know, people turn it in to us Saturday. So Monday at the latest, we would have to have those turned back in.
Will there be any food vendors there? So yes, our fair board did say that they were going to reach out to their food vendors that typically come to the fair and invite some of those to see who would be interested in coming. So potentially there should be a few food vendors there. How will new buyers register? So all buyers will be registering the same. Once we have that link live and ready to go, they will just go on and log in as a buyer. Basically, you just, like if you would have a social media account or, you know, you're creating an Amazon or an eBay account, you will create that account and it'll ask you to put in, you know, your credit card information. Answered that one. Is there a way to log on to Wi-Fi for a private computer at the fairgrounds for a self-determined project?
Well,
Yes.
I mean,
So
we have Wi-Fi, but it's hopefully we'll have hotspots,
well, but
right?
if we have a hotspot,
Okay, yeah, we should be able to do that. And then there's another question that was in the chat box about having a drop-off day for tack boxes. We will. I'm assuming we're not going to have like big tack areas set up. If you're bringing your animal, I mean, you're not going to need to bring big, huge tack boxes that hold all your feed and everything. I mean, you can bring what you need to show, but you can bring chairs, obviously, and there will be places where you can kind of set up, but it's not, I don't know that they're going to have a drop-off day ahead of time to set up areas to hang out for the week. Is that kind of what you understand, Josie?
yeah, that's kind of the way that I understood it, is that, you know, and because we're using the same pins over and over, they're going to be in the same area. So if everybody brings their tack boxes, we're not going to have enough room for people's stuff. And since you're just showing for the day and then going home, animals are not staying there all week. Hopefully the stuff that you would need would be very minimal and vehicles will be able to be parked a little closer than what they have in the past. So there was also a cake decorating question. They want to know if they will bring their decorated cakes to judging. You're muted.
Every time I click on the chat box, it doesn't let me unmute myself then. That's a good question. I assume we would probably need, we'll have to talk about that. I'll talk about it, and when we have our cake decorate, I'll talk to some of our volunteers and our judges, and then those that we see that are registered for cake decorating, I'll let you know on that, because we may need, I don't know, we'll have to, because if we, I don't know, I'm stammering. I'll think about it, and I'll be sure to let the kids who sign up for those projects know what the answer is. Good question. Thank you for asking.
So we had a question asking about when was the goat show. So the goat show will still be Tuesday. Goats will be checked in from 7 to 9 a.m. and they will be, market goats will be weighed as they come off the trailer. The pack, pig meat, and dairy goat show will begin at 11 a.m. Pack goats will be first. That way we can, bring in all of their equipment for their show and then take that back out, followed by the pig meat and then dairy goats. Then our market and market breeding goats will begin at 3 p.m. Showmanship will be first. Then we'll go into our commercial production, followed by our market goat show at the end.
We had a question about the rabbit pens, saying that they thought the pens were only for doe and litters. I think we're encouraging people to bring their own cages and show out of, but knowing that some kids may not have those, there will probably be, because we will have a few pens set up for doe and litters, there may be a few pens available for kids if they need to, but they're gonna have to clean them out when they're done. But we're not gonna have the whole rabbit and poultry barn set up like it was. I mean, there'll be pens set up for poultry, but we won't have all the rabbit pens set up, I believe is what was discussed the other night. And there are a lot of the logistics of this, folks, that this all happened Monday evening at a meeting and everything changed from what we thought was happening Friday. So you'll have to bear with us as we work through it, because there's a lot of stuff that we may still have questions about how it's going to look and how it's going to work. With the pig weight question, I think Josie answered that here just a little while ago and said that she would have to talk to the committee and the fair board about that. So, because we just raised the top weight anyhow, so they'll have to look and see if they, if that's feasible to change that this year. We'll let you know keep people posted on that.
So we have another question that says, will there need to be, for horses, will there need to be barn signs? I don't necessarily know what the barn signs mean, but.
Do you mean like names on stalls? Maybe? I don't know.
Maybe. So horses will have the option to show out of their trailer just like the other ones. They won't necessarily have to be put in a stall, but you can choose to use a stall. So it'll pretty much be, and when it comes to stalls for any of the species, since they're just showing for one day, it's going to be first come, first serve. So kind of like camp. If you want to room together and be next to each other, then you need to arrive together so you can pick those stalls and stuff together. We're not going to, be picking stalls based on clubs or any of that information. We'll just put them in as they arrive or let you pick them as you arrive. So can we use a trailer for that? So we are encouraging people to show off their trailer just because that limits the amount of people that we're going to have in the barn. And just like I was talking about the gilt show, we will not have bleachers for our junior fair shows. So if people want a place to sit, they will need to bring their own chairs, and priority is going to be given to those people whose kids are in the ring at that current point in time. So we will ask for people to clear out so that they can come in and see their kids. And that's because we're not encouraging these large gatherings and these large groups of people. So, we'll ask you to, go back to either your stalls, or if you want to bring a pop-up tent area where you can congregate, outside amongst with your family, that would be ideal in order for us to be able to space out. Another topic that I guess I just wanted to hit, I know there are a lot of county fairs that are taking place right now, and there's a lot of open shows and things that are going on. And when people see these things, they think, oh, well, we can do that because these people are. Well, each county is in a different situation, you know, depending on the number of cases and the health concerns that are going on and how your health departments are handling and interpreting this information is different, and it's varying from county to county. And specifically when it comes to open shows, those open shows are not being handled and coordinated by that senior fair board or those junior fair committees. That's being handled by different organizations. And so depending on those organizations, they each have their own set of rules and guidelines. So we want to keep our people safe. And the more that you look and you see these other shows and they're not following those restrictions and guidelines is where problems are going to lie, and when you're going to have more of these cases. So it's important for us to keep our communities and our families safe. And so we're trying to do our best with the guidelines that we have in order to be able to hold these shows in an exhibition opportunity for our kids. But it's also going to take our families and our kids following those rules and guidelines to allow this to happen. So if you set up a pop-up or show off the trailer, will you have the option for a small generator or electric in that area? That is a very good question, and that is something that we can talk to our senior fair board about. I know that they have those accessibilities outside for you know, our vendors that are typically set up with their food trailers. So that's a great question, and I'm going to write that down so that we can ask them the next time that we meet.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they'll have those boxes unlocked and available to us, especially if when they're trying to conserve money, but we can ask.
I do know that when we talked about it at one of our meetings, we discussed camping. So I know that they were considering allowing camping and having those original camping fees if people choose to come and camp. And I don't know if they're going to have some type of reduced fees based on, you know, just a day or whatever. So I know that they are allowing the full camping week if people choose to come and stay. And I know there's advisors that come and help their kids and stuff all week. So that may be something that some families want to do that have kids that are showing multiple projects. So I did know that we talked about that. They would just have to follow whatever those regulations are as far as what the governor's put out in regards to campgrounds. So I can ask to see if they're going to have, you know, any type of reduced situation for that. They're not going to charge for admission. So that was a question that was just asked. So if you're coming in to watch your kids or family members, nobody's going to be charged. I do know, and when we discuss money, that is a large portion of it. And I guess I want people to understand, when you see that the governor was giving $50,000 to these counties that were allowing them to have junior fair exhibition, that's not $50,000 to spend however you want. That $50,000 is coming from the CARES Act. So there are some stipulations and some regulations on how that can be spent. And a lot of it is geared towards, you know, helping with sanitation and PPE and keeping people safe. It's not necessarily you can spend this to go pay for your judges type of thing. So I do know that they weren't going to charge admission, but they may possibly ask people for donations to help put towards hosting their junior fair, because we are still looking at spending, you know, money for utilities and us being there, and paying for judges and paying for those ribbons. So some of that stuff, you know, there is an expense associated with it.
Josie and I just, you know, every year we put together the ribbon order, and, you know, the ribbons alone are usually anywhere between $3,000 and $7,000, depending on, you know, where we are and what we need to order. So when you put in ribbons and judges and all of that stuff, you know, it adds up pretty quickly how much money they have to spend just to allow us to have shows. Do we have any other questions?
There are currently no questions in the question and answer, and I believe we have hit all of them that are in our chat box.
We're really thankful that you all were able to join us this evening. At one point, we had 105 people logged in. So that makes me very thankful because I know, when we're trying to get this information out, we want to make sure everybody has the most current up-to-date information, and we're trying really hard to keep you guys in the loop. So we appreciate everyone joining us this evening. And we just encourage you, those of you who are still on here, volunteers and 4-H families, just remind all of your other 4-H friends and families to continually check their email. Last week when we sent an email out about, I think it was no, it wasn't the project judging, when we sent an email out with an update, and we sent out over 1,000 emails, and at one point we only had about 300 people that had actually opened and read those. So right now, email is how we're getting information to you. So please, please remind everyone to check their email on, at least every couple days or at least once a week, make sure that you're getting that information, because as we get updates, that's where we're sending those to you. And if you're not getting emails, you need to log into your 4-H online account and make sure that the email address we have for you is correct.
So with that, I believe we can release you guys for this evening. So thank you all for joining with us and participation and all of the great questions that you guys asked, because it sparked some good conversation, and it hit on some topics that I know that I wanted to share with you guys. So I'm glad that you guys asked some really great questions.
Thanks, everybody. We really appreciate your patience with all of us.
See you soon, hopefully. All right, talk to you guys tomorrow.
Everybody.